ಸಂಸಾರದ ಸಂಸಾರದಾವಾ ನಲಲಿಢಲೋಕ ತ್ರಾಣಾಯ ಕಾರುಣ್ಯ ಘನ ಘನ ತ್ವಂ. प्राप्तस्य कल्याणा गुणार्णवस्य वन्दे गुरो श्रीचरणारविन्दम्. गुणार्णवस्य वन्दे गुरो श्रीचरणारविन्दम्. महाप्रभु कीर्तन नृत्य गीता वादित्रमाध्यान् मनसोरसेना. प्रभु कीर्तन नृत्य गीता वादित्रमाध्यान् मनसोरसेना. रोमाञ्चकम्पा श्रुतरङ्गभाजो वन्दे गुरो श्रीचरणारविन्दम्. श्रुतरङ्गभाजो वन्दे गुरो श्रीचरणारविन्दम्. श्रीविग्रहाराधननित्यनाना शृङ्गारतान् मन्दिरमार्जनादौ. नित्यनाना शृङ्गारतान् मन्दिरमार्जनादौ. युक्तस्य भक्तं च नियुञ्जतोऽपि वन्दे गुरो श्रीचरणारविन्दम्. भक्तं च नियुञ्जतोऽपि वन्दे गुरो श्रीचरणारविन्दम्. चतुर्विधा श्रीभगवत्प्रसादो साध्वन्न तृप्तान् हरिभक्तसङ्घान्. श्रीभगवत्प्रसादो साध्वन्न तृप्तान् हरिभक्तसङ्घान्. कृत्वैव तृप्तिं भजत सदैव वन्दे गुरो श्रीचरणारविन्दम्. तृप्तिं इव वन्दे गुरो श्रीचरणारविन्दम्. श्रीराधिका माधवयोरपारा माधुर्यलीला गुणरूपनाम्ना. राधिका माधवयोरपारा माधुर्यलीला गुणरूपनाम्ना. प्रतीक्षणास्वाधनलोलुपस्य वन्दे गुरो श्रीचरणारविन्दम्. नास्वाधनलोलुपस्य दे गुरो श्रीचरणारविन्दम्. निकुञ्जयूनो रतिकेलिसिद्धै यायालिभिर्युक्तिरपेक्षणीया. यूनो रतिकेलिसिद्धै यायालिभिर्युक्तिरपेक्षणीया. तत्रातिदाक्षा अतिवल्लभस्य वन्दे गुरो श्रीचरणारविन्दम्. अक्षादतिवल्लभस्य वन्दे गुरो श्रीचरणारविन्दम्. साक्षाद्धरित्विना समस्तशास्त्र उक्तस्तथा भाव्यत एव सद्भिः. धरित्विना समस्तशास्त्र उक्तस्तथा भाव्यत एव सद्भिः. किन्तु प्रभोर्यः प्रिय एव तस्य वन्दे गुरो श्रीचरणारविन्दम् भार्यः प्रिय एव तस्य वन्दे गुरो श्रीचरणारविन्दम् यस्य प्रसादात् भगवत्प्रसादो यस्य प्रसादात् न गति कुतोऽपि भगवत्प्रसादो यस्य प्रसादात् न गति कुतोऽपि ध्यायन्तु वंस्तस्य यशस्त्रिसन्ध्या वन्दे गुरो श्रीचरणारविन्दम् स्तुवंस्तस्य यशस्त्रिसन्ध्या वन्दे गुरो श्रीचरणारविन्दम् नमो विष्णुपदाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्ति वेदान्ता स्वामिनिति नामिने ॐ विष्णुपदाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्ति वेदान्ता स्वामिनिति नामिने नमस्ते सरस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेषा शून्यवादी पाश्चात्यादिशतारिणे स्ते सरस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेषा शून्यवादी पाश्चात्यादिशतारिणे जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंदा श्री अद्वैता गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंदा श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंदा श्री अद्वैता गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंदा य श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंदा श्री अद्वैता गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंदा कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंदा श्री अद्वैता गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंदा हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare, Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare, Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare, Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare, Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare, Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare, Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Ram Hare Hare. Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Ram Hare Hare. Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram Ram Hare. Jaya Radha Nila Madhava, Radha Nila Madhava Radhe, Radha Nila Madhava, Radha Nila Madhava Radhe. Jaya Radha Nila Madhava, Radha Nila Madhava Radhe, Radha Nila Madhava, Radha Nila Madhava Radhe. Jai Jai Radhe, Jai Jai Shah, Jai Jai Shri Vrindavan Dham. Jai Radhe, Jai Jai Shah, Jai Jai Shri Vrindavan Dham. Shri Radhe, Jai Radhe, Jai Shri Krishna Bolo Shri Radhe. Shri Radhe, Jai Radhe, Jai Shri Krishna Bolo Shri Radhe. Shri Radhe, Jai Radhe, Jai Shri Krishna Bolo Jai Radhe. Radhe, Jai Radhe, Jai Shri Krishna Bolo Jai Radhe. Krishna Balaram Jayo Krishna Balaram, Krishna Balaram Jayo Krishna Balaram. Balaram Jayo Krishna Balaram, Krishna Balaram Jayo Krishna Balaram. Jayo Jagannatha Jayo Baladeva Jayo Subhadrama Jayo Sudarshan Chakra. Jayo Jagannatha Jayo Baladeva Jayo Subhadrama Jayo Sudarshan Chakra. Jayo Sitaram Jayo Sitaram, Sitaram Jayo Lakshman Hanuman. Sitaram, Sitaram, Sitaram Jayo Lakshman Hanuman. Jayo Lakshmi Narasimha, Jayo Lakshmi Narasimha, Jayo Lakshmi Narasimha, Jayo Lakshmi Narasimha. Narasimha Jayo Lakshmi Narasimha, Jayo Lakshmi Narasimha, Jayo Lakshmi Narasimha. Nittai Gaura Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nittai Gaura Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nittai Gaura Hari Bol. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada. Jaya Jaya Gurudev, 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 Jaya Jaya Gurudev, Jaya Gurudev, 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 Jaya Jaya Gurudev.
नमस्ते नरसिंहाय नमस्ते नरसिंहाय प्रह्लादलाददायिने प्रह्लादलाददायिने हिरण्यकाशीपूर्वक्षः हिरण्यकाशीपूर्वक्षः शीलटङ्कानकालाये शीलटङ्कानकालाये इतो नरसिंहा परतो नरसिंहो इतो नरसिंहा परतो नरसिंहो यतो यतो यामि ततो नरसिंहा यतो यतो यामि ततो नरसिंहा बाहिर्नरसिंहो हृदये नरसिंहो बाहिर्नरसिंहो हृदये नरसिंहो नरसिंहमदिं शरणं प्रपद्ये नरसिंहं प्रपदे तव करकमलवरे नाकाम् अद्भुतशृङ्गां दलिता हिरण्यकशिपु तनुभृङ्गां केशवधृता नरहरिरूपा जय जगदीश हरे जय जगदीश हरे जय जगदीश हरे तव करकमलवरे नाकाम् अद्भुतशृङ्गां दलिता हिरण्यकशिपु तनुभृङ्गां केशवधृता नरहरिरूपा जय जगदीश हरे जय जगदीश हरे स्वामी जय जगदीश हरे केशवधृता नरहरिरूपा जय जगदीश हरे जय जगदीश हरे जय जगदीश हरे केशवधृता नरहरिरूपा जय जगदीश हरे जय जगदीश हरे स्वामी जय जगदीश हरे जय नरसिंहदेव जय नरसिंहदेव जय नरसिंहदेव जय नरसिंहदेव जय सिंहदेव जय नरसिंहदेव जय नरसिंहदेव जय नरसिंहदेव जय भक्ता प्रह्लाद जय भक्ता प्रह्लाद जय भक्ता प्रह्लाद जय भक्ता प्रह्लाद जय भक्ता भक्ता प्रह्लाद जय भक्ता जय जय प्रभुपाद 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 जय जय प्रभुपाद जय प्रभुपाद 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 जय जय प्रभुपाद जय जय गुरुदेव 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 जय जय गुरुदेव जय जय गुरुदेव 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 जय जय गुरुदेव। विघ्न विनाशक लक्ष्मी नरसिंहदेव भगवान की जय। भक्त शिरोमणि प्रहलाद महाराज की जय। गौर प्रेमानंदे हरि।
वृंदाय तुलसीदेव्याय प्रियाय केशवस्य च विष्णु भक्ति पदे देवी सत्यवत्याय नमो नमः। वृंदाय तुलसीदेव्याय प्रियाय केशवस्य च विष्णु भक्ति पदे देवी सत्यवत्याय नमो नमः। वृंदाय तुलसीदेव्याय प्रियाय केशवस्य च विष्णु भक्ति पदे देवी सत्यवत्याय नमो नमः। वृंदा देवी तुलसी महारानी की जय।
नमो नमः तुलसी कृष्ण प्रेयसी नमो नमः। राधा कृष्ण सेवा पावो ये अभिलाषी। तुलसी कृष्ण प्रेयसी नमो नमः। ये तुम्हारा शरण लो तारा वंश पूर्ण हो। कृपा कोरि करो तारे वृंदावन वासी। मोरा ये अभिलाष विलास कुंज दियो वास। नयन हरिबो सदा जुगल रूप राशि। तुलसी कृष्ण प्रेयसी नमो नमः। निवेदन दारो सखीरनु कृष्ण प्रेयसी नमो नमः। दीन कृष्ण दासे कोय हीन मोरा होय। श्री राधा गोविंदा प्रेमे सदा येन भासी। श्री राधा गोविंदा प्रेमे सदा येन भासी। तुलसी कृष्ण प्रेयसी नमो नमः। यानि कानि च पापानि प्रमाद्यधिकानि च तानि तानि प्रणश्यन्ति प्रदक्षिण पदे पदे। यानि कानि च पापानि प्रमाद्यधिकानि च तानि तानि प्रणश्यन्ति प्रदक्षिण पदे पदे। यानि कानि च पापानि ब्रह्मत्यादिकानि च तानि तानि प्रणश्यन्ति प्रदक्षिण पदे पदे। यानि कानि च पापानि ब्रह्मत्यादिकानि च तानि तानि प्रणश्यन्ति प्रदक्षिण पदे पदे। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare Jaya Vrinda Devi Jaya Vrinda Devi Jaya Vrinda Devi Jaya Vrinda Devi Jaya Bhakti Devi Jaya Bhakti Devi Jaya Bhakti Devi Jaya Bhakti Devi Nitai Gaura Hari Bol Hari Bol Hari Bol Nitai Gaura Hari Bol Vrindaya Tulsidevaya Priyaya Keshavasya cha Vishnu Bhakti Prati Devi Satyavataya Namo Namaha Vrindaya Tulsidevaya Priyaya Keshavasya cha Vishnu Bhakti Prati Devi Satyavataya Namo Namaha Vrindaya Tulsidevaya Priyaya Keshavasya cha Vishnu Bhakti Prati Devi Satyavataya Namo Namaha Vrindaya Tulsi Devi Maharani Ki Jai
Oh, Tulasi, beloved of Krishna, I bow down before you again and again. My desire is to serve Sri Radha and Krishna. For Krishna is the Guru of truth. Krishna mercy master is my residence in Dham. My desire is to also grant me residence in the precious Lord Shiva Dham. Thus is my wish to have always been going through the past Radha and Krishna. I beg you to make me follow the path of Braja. Please give me the devotional service and make me all the main service. This verse follows the Holy Son of Krishna praise. May I always swim the love of Shri Radha and Govinda. Shri Chaitanya Shastakam Ki Jai. Cheto Darpana Marjanam Bhavamahadavagni Nirvapanam Shri Kairava Chandrika Vicharanam Vidyavatu Jivanam Anandam Buddhivardhanam Pratipadam Purnamida Swadanam Sarvatma Sadanam Haram Jayate Shri Krishna Sankirtanam Namnamukari Bauta Nija Sarva Shakti Tathapitani Amita Smaranena Kala Edati Shri Tava Kripa Bhagavan Mamapi Durudayamamidushan Hayanina Trinadapi Sunichena Karorapi Savishnuna Amanina Manadena Kirtaniya Sada Hari Najanam Najanam Nasundarim Kavitam Bhajagati Shikamaye Mama Janmani Janmani Ishvare Bhavata Bhaktir Haituki Tvahi Ayunanda Zanujaginaram Patitam Mam Vishame Bhavam Buddho Kripaya Tava Pada Pankaja Chitaduri Satesham Chintaya Nayanam Gada Shrutharaya Vadanam Gadgada Rudraya Gira Pulakai Vishnam Vapurukata Tavanama Grahane Bhavishyati Yugahitam Nimishena Chakshusha Pravishahitam Shunyahitam Jagat Sarvam Govinda Virahe Name Ashrisava Padratam Vinasumam Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Sri Sukhanship Sasam Ki Jai. Glory to the Sri Krishna Sankirtana, which cleanses heart of all the toxic image for years and extinguishes fire of conditional life, of repeated birth and death. This Sankirtana movement is prime foundation for humanity at large, because spices raise and banishing moon. It is life of all transcendental knowledge, increases ocean transcendent bliss, and enhances fully taste the nectar of all who is anxious. O my Lord, your holy name alone can end all banishing human beings, and thus you have hundreds and millions of names like Krishna and Govinda. In these transcendental names, you have invested all transcendental energies. But there are not even hard and fast rules for chanting these names. Oh my Lord, out of kindness and will easily approach you by a holy name, but I am so unfortunate that I have no attraction for them. One should chant the holy name of the Lord in a humble state of mind, thinking oneself Lord and joy in the street. One should be more taller than a tree, devoid of all sense of false prestige, and should be ready to offer all respect to others. In such a state of mind, one can chant the holy name of the Lord constantly. O Almighty God, I have no desire to commit wealth, nor that I be trouble, nor that I want any number of followers. Only want to impulse in devotional service, birth after birth. O Son of Martha and Nanda Krishna, I am eternal service. Yet somehow I have fallen into this ocean of birth and death. Please pick me up from this ocean of death and take me along with Adam to lotus feet. O my Lord, while my eyes with dagger tears of love flame constant when I chant your holy name, while my voice choke up whenever my body stand hand and exhalation of your name. O Govinda, feeling of vibration and fulfilled moment in my equidance. Tears are flowing from eyes like torrents of rain, and I am all vacant in the world in your absence. I know no one but Krishna as my Lord, and shall remain so. He handles me roughly by the embrace, or makes me broken heart but not being present before me. He is pleased to do anything else, for he is always my worshipful Lord, unconditionally. To blaspheme the devotees by which they even the very life of engaging in the name of the Lord. To consider the names of demigods, Lord Shiva of Brahma, equal to repentant name Lord Vishnu. To disobey the order of spiritual master. To blaspheme the very nature of the experience of Vedic worship. To consider the glory of chanting Hare Krishna in imagination. To give an interpretation to the holy name of the Lord. To commit sinful activities in strength of chanting the holy name. 8. To consider chanting Hare Krishna will auspicious intrinsic activities which are often in the Vedas, fruitive activities, Dhamma, to instruct a faithless person about the glory of the holy name. 10. To not have complete faith in chanting holy name, and to maintain material attachments, ignorance, and so many instructions on this matter. It is only an offensive while chanting. Every devotee claims to Vaishnava with regard to these offenses, in order to achieve desired success, Krishna prema. Now we ask the most humble obeisance to the Lord.
Sattvam Vichuddha Sattvam Govindam Adi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Ananda Chinmaya Rasa Matayamana Surya Prani Nam Patifalam Smaratam Upetya Lilaya Tena Bhuvanani Jayaya Jasram Govindam Adi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Goloka Namni Nichadamni Tale Chitasya Devi Maheswari Dama Sute Sutesu Tete Prabhavini Chaya Vitas Chayena Govindam Adi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Srishtistati Pralaya Savada Saktireka Chayeva Yasya Bhuvanani Vibharti Durga Ichana Rupam Apiyasya Chitesta Sesya Govindam Adi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Shiram Yata Dajivikara Visesha Yoga Sanjayate Nahitata Pritakasti Hetu Yasambhutama Pitata Samapaitikar Yat Govindam Adi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Deparcha Devi Dasantanam Abhyapetya Dipayate Vivitahetu Samanadharna Yatadrikevi Hicha Vishnutaya Vibhati Govindam Adi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Akarna Narna Vajale Bhajtisma Yoga Nidram Ananta Jagadan Sramakupa Adhara Saktim Avalambya Param Swamurtim Govindam Adi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Yasyaika Nisvasita Kalamata Avalambya Jivanti Loma Vilaja Jagadandanata Vishnur Mahansa Yasya Kalavi Seso Govindam Adi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Basman Yatasma Sakaleshina Jesu Teja Sriyam Kiyat Prakatayata Pitat Prataktra Brahmaya Esa Jagadanda Vidanda Karta Govindam Adi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Yat Pada Palavigam Vidaya Kumbadvande Pranama Samayesa Ganadi Raja Vignan Vihanta Malamasya Jagatrayasya Govindam Adi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Agnir Mahika Ganamambu Murudisasya Kalastatatma Manasiti Jagatrayani Yasmad Bhavanti Vibhavanti Visanti Amcha Govindam Adi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Yas Chaksuresa Savita Sakala Grahanam Raja Samasta Suramurti Sesa Teja Yasya Gaya Brahmati Sambreta Kala Chakro Govindam Adi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Dharmota Papa Nijaya Sutayastapam Se Brahma Dikita Patagava Desa Jivaha Yadata Mata Vipava Prakata Prabhava Govindam Adi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Yastrinda Gopa Matavenda Mahusva Karma Bandana Rupa Valabhajana Matanoti Karmani Nidati Kinticha Bhakti Bhaja Govindam Adi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Yam Kroda Kama Saja Pranayadi Vitti Vatsaya Mahoguru Guru Vasevi Bhava Sanchintya Tasya Sadusam Tanamapurete Govindam Adi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Sriya Kanta Kanta Parama Purisha Kapatara Vojamabu Mishchintamani Ganama Ito Amamritam Kataganam Natyam Gamanam Apivam Sipriya Saki Chirinandam Jyoti Parama Pitata Swadyam Apicha Sayatra Shiradi Visha Vadi Shirabi Vyascha Sumahan Nimesar No, yeah, Vajitina Samaya Bajay Sweta Jutam Tamaham Ihugola Kamiktiam Vidantaste Santakshiti Virachara Katipa She Guru Vastika prayers, Klije. The spiritual master is receiving benediction from the ocean of mercy, just as the cloud pours water on the forest fire to extinguish it. So the spiritual master delivers the material afflicted world by extinguishing the blazing fire and material existence are from my respectful base. Not the lotus feet is such a spiritual master who's an ocean of auspicious qualities, chanting the holy names, dancing in ecstasy, singing and playing musical instruments. Spiritual master is always gladdened by the Sankirtan movement of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Because he's relishing the malice of pure devotion within his mind, sometimes his hair stands on end. He feels quivering in his body, and tears flow from his eyes like waves over my respectful basis. Unto the lotus feet, it says spiritual master. The spiritual master is always engaged in the temple worship of Shishi, Radha, and Krishna. He also engages his disciples in such worship. They dress the deities in beautiful clothes and ornaments, clean their temple, and perform other similar worship of the Lord. From my respectful basis, unto the lotus feet of such spiritual masters. Spiritual masters always offering Krishna 4 kinds of delicious food, analyzes that which is liquid, drunk, and sucked. When the spiritual master sees that the devotees are satisfied by eating Bhagavad Prasada, he is satisfied. I offer my respectful obeisance unto the lotus feet of such spiritual masters. Spiritual masters always eager to hear and chant about the unlimited conjugal pastimes of Radhika and Madhava and their qualities, names, and forms. The spiritual master aspires to relish these at every moment. I offer my respectful obeisance unto the lotus feet of such spiritual master. The spiritual master is very dear because he is expert at assisting the gopis who at different times make different tasteful arrangements for the perfection of Radha and Krishna's conjugal loving affairs within the groves of Vrindavana. I offer my most humble obeisance unto the lotus feet of such spiritual master. The spiritual master is to be honored as much as the Supreme Lord because he is the most confidential servant to the Lord. This is acknowledged in all revealed scriptures and followed by all authorities. Therefore, I offer my respectful obeisance unto the lotus feet of such spiritual master who is a bona fide representative of Shri Hare Krishna. By the mercy of spiritual master, one receives the benediction of Krishna. Without the grace of the spiritual master, one cannot make any advancement. Therefore, I should always remember and praise the spiritual master. At least 3 times a day, I should offer my respectful obeisance unto the lotus feet of my spiritual master, his divine grace. A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Gaur Premanandi Haribol. Srimad Bhagavatam Grantaraj Ki Jai. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3. Chapter 6, verse number 18. Verse number 19. Canto 3, Chapter 6, verse number 19. Medram tasya vinirbinam swadishnyam na ka upavisat retasam sena yenasav anandam pratipadyate. Medram, genitals, tasya, of the gigantic form, vinirbinam, being separated, swadhisnyam, own position, ka, Brahma, the original living creature, upavisat, entered, retasa amsena, with the part of the semen, yena, by which, aso, the living entity, anandam, sex pleasure, pratipadyate, experiences. Translation by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. When the genitals of the gigantic form separately became manifest, then Prajapati, the original living creature, entered into them with his partial semen, and thus the living entities can enjoy sex pleasure. Let's read that one more time. When the genitals of the gigantic form separately became manifest, then Prajapati, the original living creature, entered into them with his partial semen, and thus the living entities can enjoy sex pleasure. Well, that's the whole point. There is a certain liquid that the body exudes that covers the genitals, and it is the source of the pleasure that one may feel engaging in sex. And this liquid can be, let's say, it says here, the original living creature entered into them with his partial semen, and thus the living entities can enjoy sex pleasure. So that there are vaginal liquids, and there's also male semen. These coatings cover the genitals during sex, and that's when people feel some kind of euphoria. It's a material thing. It's bewildering because people accept that type of pleasure as something that is good, but actually it's only there because if there was no pleasure at all, people wouldn't engage in sex, and by sex they can procreate. But that's the only reason. That's the only reason for it. It's not for unlimited time, unlimited times of exerting these or exuding these liquids and then trying to enjoy them apart from procreation. Okay. So we see there are many mystical things in the material world. So that's what we're going to talk about today. Although there's no purport to this verse, it is very important because most people are stuck on this point of the, let's say, short but intense pleasure they might experience engaging in this type of activity. And that can bewilder them for the rest of their life. So we have to understand, first of all, why there is such things as these, let's say, liquids that excite one's sense of mundane pleasure. It's to encourage people to engage in this activity for procreation. It's not meant for repeated sense gratification, because with repeated sense gratification and expending these liquids, one shortens their lifespan. It's only meant for procreation. It's not meant for this unlimited sense gratification. And what happens is one's vital energy becomes diminished more and more by this type of behavior. Okay, so there are many, many mysterious things in the material world. It's a very interesting lecture by Srila Prabhupada about that. And let's see, where is that? Did I put it away? Okay, 1 second. I have to go. Oh, let me see if I put it here. Okay, I left it in my room, so. Oh, no, I have it. Okay, I'm sorry. So, Prabhupada explains something that's very, very interesting. This is a lecture on the 25th of September 1973 called Goloka Vrindavan is Everywhere. Now, there are definitely certain major advantages of being in Kali Yuga. Now, I want you to write them down, because this is one of the next panels we're going to do. There's two aspects of the panel. Half of the panel will be the advantages of Kali Yuga, and the other half of the panel will explain how Lord Chaitanya made going back to Godhead easy in the material in Kali Yuga, which is the worst period of material creation, the fourth and worst period. So, although it's the worst period, actually there are advantages, and the whole system for making spiritual advancements become relatively easy if we take advantage of those, if we profit from those advantages that are given to us. Most people don't understand this. Therefore, they take up impossible ways of becoming liberated, such as following the original Varnashram system, which will be a failure in Kali Yuga. Therefore, there is the Daiva Varnashram system. So we're going to discuss today, one, the advantages of Kali Yuga. And actually, there are a lot of them. I thought there were just a few. There's actually a lot. Number two, how Lord Chaitanya made the whole process joyful and easy. And if there's time, there's one more other thing we might talk about. Okay, so let's go back to the advantages. Now, we've discussed this before, but actually there's more of them I discovered recently. Number one, of course, is that if you think of doing something evil in previous times, not Kali Yuga, but previously, you would get the karmic reaction right away, even without doing it. In Kali Yuga, you have to actually perform the act of evil in order to get the karmic reaction. That's one advantage. Second advantage, in previous times, if you thought of doing something devotional or good, you did not get the advantage of it. You had to actually perform it. In Kali Yuga, simply thinking of doing good things. Now, what's the example? It's the Brahmana in South India who was very poor. So he was living in an age where one had to perform very opulent worship of the deity. That was in Dwapara Yuga. So he felt very miserable because he was very poor. Then he heard a lecture that said there is such a thing as manaseva. You can do service mentally. Whoa, that changed everything for him. So then he did very, very, very elaborate service for the Lord, deity service for the Lord, going through all the little minutiae, all the little steps of perfection to serve the Lord with love and devotion. And he went back to Godhead. Right? So that's called mana seva. So even if you think of doing something good in this age, and good meaning something devotional, not just, oh yeah, I want to feed turkey to homeless people on Thanksgiving. No, that's not good. It sounds good for mundane people, but it's not actually good. But good means serving the deity and serving the devotees. Okay, so that's two major things. A third major thing is simply by chanting Hare Krishna. Kalir dosani de rajan astihi eka mahadguna kirtanad eva krishnasya mukta sangasya jayate. You can attain liberation in this age simply by chanting purely the holy names and not committing any of the offenses against the holy name. So let's write this down. There's offenses against the holy name, right? We say them every day. There's also offenses against devotees. Write that down. You have to avoid all these offenses. And then there's offenses against the deities, in deity worship. And then there's offenses against the holy Dham. So there are actually a lot of offenses. This is all explained in Nectar of Devotion. But we should focus especially on no offenses against the devotees and the deities, because that would be catastrophic. Okay, so then...
Is the fourth one? That's the fourth, like chanting Hare Krishna purely. That's the third one.
Yeah. Did I tell the fourth one? I didn't tell it yet.
This is part of the three itself.
Yeah. Okay. And the fourth one is yeah. No, wait a minute. Let me just think. These are advantages, right, of Kali Yuga, right? The fourth one is that surrender to Krishna is not controlled by the modes of nature, by the laws of nature. In other words, anyone, anytime, in any condition, if they surrender to Krishna, it's not controlled by laws of karma. In other words, Yamaraj is not going to say, no, you can't do this. Sometimes it may happen, but ultimately one will not be stopped from surrendering if they're sincere. So, what do I mean? That Yamaraj will test to see if you're actually sincere. And the test can be very, very severe. But if you insist, if you actually are determined to surrender, then you'll be able to do it, even though you have very, very bad karma. But you'll be tested. And the test can be very, let's say, challenging. Okay, so Haridas Thakur, he received the Acharya test First, a prostitute was hired to make him fall down, and he tricked her, and eventually she became a pure devotee. Rather than making him fall down, he made her into a pure devotee. But we shouldn't think that we can do those things. So, because we are like butter, and someone like a prostitute is like fire. So when the butter approaches the fire, what happens? It melts. So we should not think that we have the same powers as Haridas Thakura or great devotees. Even Lord Shiva failed. Even Vishwamrita Muni failed, right? So we shouldn't play with fire, let's put it like that. Okay, so then, number 5, that is that if you do something to serve Krishna, if you do devotional service, the benefit of it can never be taken away from you. It becomes eternal. So if you do 1% in this lifetime, in the next lifetime, you start from 2%. You don't start from 0. You can never lose the benefit of devotional service. Okay. Another thing, if you chant the holy name is absolute because it's not different than Krishna. So, there's some examples of people who chanted the holy name at the end of life. Now, one is Ajamil. He said the name of Narayana at the moment of death. Now, he didn't mean Narayana. He meant his son. But the name Narayana, just by itself, or Krishna, or Madhava, or Govinda, is transcendental. So, in order to go back to Godhead, you have to say the holy name or think of Krishna, and then you go back to Godhead. So, what is the difference between Ajamil and, let's say, Haridas Thakur? Ajamil said the name, but he didn't mean the Lord. But he said it without material desire. Therefore, his sins became purified. But he didn't go back to Godhead. He got another chance to purify himself. Whereas someone who chants the holy name or says the holy name at the moment of death and is thinking of the Lord with love and devotion, that person goes back to Godhead immediately. So Ajamil did not go back to Godhead, but he got a second chance. And he used that very wisely. And then, after purifying himself completely by chanting the mantra, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya, he went back to Godhead. All right, so there's a difference between, let's say, Haridas Thakur and Ajamil. Haridas Thakur, not only was he thinking of Krishna, he was looking at Lord Chaitanya directly. And Lord Chaitanya had him in his arms like this. And that's the way he left his body, right? So he was chanting and he's looking at the Lord, thinking about the Lord, and he went back to Godhead. Right? Okay, so the holy name, however, is completely pure. And therefore, when the holy name is chanted sincerely, it can liberate even the worst person. But sincerely means without offenses and chanted without any material desires, only the desire to please Krishna. Okay. So then the holy name acts in its full glory for the devotee. Okay, how many is that? That's 6 or 5? 6.
So for 5, the one that you just mentioned, isn't that the same as third one, Maharaj? Simply chanting Hare Krishna purely will liberate one.
It gives a little more information about it, yeah. And it differentiates between Ajamil and Haridas Thakur or other devotees who are whose only desire is to please the Lord and are thinking of the Lord. Right. Okay, so let's see if there's any more. Yeah, there are. Let me think. Let's read this, a little bit of this lecture, September 25th, 1973. Prabhupada says, Bhaktivinoda Thakura, the father of the Sankirtan movement, within 200 years, he was the acharya and a householder grihastha. He was very responsible officer, magistrate, householder, but he was a great devotee. Not only devotee acharya in the line of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, disciplic succession, but he was acharya. So he sung, Ye dine grihete bhajana, deki grihete goloka bhaya. Today, whenever we find there is bhajana, which means worshiping the Supreme Lord, at that time, immediately the house of an ordinary, let's say, grihastha, becomes Vaikuntha. Actually, that is so. Vaikuntha or Goloka Vrindavan is not a material thing, just like Krishna is not material. And Krishna can stay in his abode, Goloka Vrindavan, and still he can stay everywhere. Anantarasta paramanu chantarastam. That's that's Brahma Samhita 535. Andantarasta paramanu chantarastam. The Lord says that I am in every atom of the universe. Okay, so Krishna, Govinda, is everywhere by his one plenary portion, which is known as Paramatma. Ekopi aso rachayitum jagadanda koti. That Paramatma is situated in every universe. Andantarastam, Garbhodakshaya Vishnu. As Garbhodakshaya Vishnu is the sum total of Paramatmas, right? And then Kshirodakshaya Vishnu is the Paramatma, but present everywhere, right? Just like, okay, so it says, the Paramatma is situated in every universe, Andantarastam, Garbhodakshaya Vishnu. As Garbhodakshaya Vishnu, he is presented in every universe, and as Kshirodakshaya Vishnu, he is within everyone's heart. Ishvara sarvabhutanam hridye serujuna tistati. Srimad Bhagavad Gita 1861. Not only within the heart of everyone, Andantarasta paramanu chantarastam, he is within the atom. That is Krishna. Similarly, Krishna's place, Goloka Vrindavan, that is also spread everywhere. How is that? Goloka Vrindavana becomes spread as soon as there is devotee. Yes. Tatra tistami narada yatra gayanti mad bhakta. That's a verse from the Narada Muni speaks. Anyway, Krishna says, Naham tistami vaikunte. I am not in Vaikuntha. And then he says, Tatra tistami narada yatra gayanti mad bhakta. I stay there where my devotees are chanting about me, about my glories. So he says, I'm not in Vaikuntha, I'm not in the hearts of the yogis. I am there where my devotees are chanting Hare Krishna. I stay there where my devotees are chanting about me, about my glories, just like we chanted Brahma Samhita, right? That's why we chant it every day, because Krishna is present when you chant his glories. That is Krishna's power, omnipotency. We pray God, omnipotent, omniscient, omnipresent. So that is fact. God can be present everywhere simultaneously, omnipresent. Similarly, there is no difference between God and his place. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu recommended, Aradhyo Bhagavan Vrajes Tanayas Taddama Vrindavanam. As Krishna is worshipable, Aradhya, similarly, his place is also Aradhya, worshipable. So as he is all-pervading, Similarly, his place is also all-pervading. So how things can be changed into Vaikuntha? That is by chanting the holy name of the Lord. Wow, this is a huge statement. You can change wherever you are into Vaikuntha simply by chanting purely the holy names of Krishna. That's how powerful Krishna and his holy name is when one chants purely to please the Lord with no material desire. Right? So how things can be changed into all-pervading, into Vaikuntha, that is by chanting the holy name of the Lord. Tatra tishtami narada yatra gayanti mad bhakta. So the bhaktas, they are also so powerful that by chanting the holy name of God, they make the supreme all-powerful Lord, they make the supreme all-powerful Lord descend in that place. Therefore, the statement of Bhaktivinoda Thakur that ye dine grihete bhajana deki, se dine grihete golokat bhaya. So we can change our home also into Vaikuntha. We can change our home. It is not difficult because as Krishna can be all-pervading, Vaikuntha is all-pervading. But we have to simply realize it by the authorized process. Everyone, we can change our home into Vaikuntha. What a wonderful statement that is, right? So there's another statement of Bhaktivinoda Thakur that Krishnera samsarakara chadi anachar. To turn your home into Vaikuntha is not a very difficult job. Simply you have to adopt the method. Krishnera samsarakara chadi anachara. Anachara means sinful activities. You cannot associate with God if you become sinful. That is not possible. That is stated in the Bhagavad Gita. Ye sam tvanta gatam papam. One who is completely free from sinful life, te dvandva mohanirmukta bhajante mam dritavrataha. Bhagavad Gita 7:28. He can worship me because he's free of dualities. He has no other desire than to please me. Therefore, he can worship me. So therefore, our Krishna consciousness movement is that we do not recommend that you give up your occupation. You become a sannyasi, give up your wife and children. No, that is not our movement. Amongst ourselves, there are sannyasis, brahmacharis, grihastha, vanaprasthas. Everyone is there. Everyone can worship Krishna. There is no such thing that this class of men, only the brahmana or the sannyasis or brahmachari or Hindus. No. Krishna is open for everyone. Mamhi partavya pasritya yepisyu papayonaya. Bhagavad Gita 9:32. Even lower born in the lower grade family, he is also open. Simply one has to adopt the means. That is recommended. There are many songs. Lochana Das, Narottam Das Thakur, he also says, Vishaya Chadiya Kabe Sudha Habe Mana, Kabe Hama Herabo Shri Vrindavana. Vishaya means sense enjoyment. Sense enjoyment. So one has to give it up, this practice of sense enjoyment. Then he becomes purified. There is no prohibition for eating, but there is prohibition for eating things which are rejected. Amedya. Eating is not stopped, but you cannot eat anything which is not accepted by Krishna. That is called anachara. If you eat something which is not accepted by Krishna, because our life, Krishna consciousness life, means to be always eternal servant of Krishna. As the servant eats the remnants of foodstuff left by the master, similarly, we are servants of Krishna. We also eat, but we eat remnants of foodstuff which is left by Krishna. That is called prasadam, Mahaprasadam. Okay, so I'm not going to read the whole lecture. Well, I'll do that another time. But we see the power of Krishna consciousness, and especially chanting Hare Krishna, while following the regulative principles. You can make your home Vaikuntha. You can make any place Vaikuntha. You can go to hell and make it Vaikuntha, right? This is very important information. There are a lot of things we don't understand, but little by little, the more we hear, the more the same things over and over again, it finally sinks in and we have faith. That's what we're aiming for, is faith. That determines the position of a devotee. It's not knowledge. It's faith. Faith that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Faith that Prabhupada is a pure devotee. Faith that this holy name is transcendental. It's not part of the material world. It's a Golokera Eva. It has come from Golokera down to the Goloka down to the material world, brought by Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu himself. Golokera Premadana, Harinama, Sankirtana. Okay, so I want to go back now to pure Krishna consciousness, because this is something that we have to understand with faith. So, in the second chapter, 61st verse, we'll come back to the benefits of Kali Yuga, and then also how Lord Chaitanya made everything simple, right? Okay, let's talk about Lord Chaitanya made everything simple, then we'll talk more about pure devotional service. What did he do? He brought the holy name. And now we're beginning to understand how powerful it actually is if we chant without material desires and only... see, the Mayavadis, they try and eliminate all material desires. Of course, they still have one. They want liberation. But they try and destroy material desires by repressing them. The devotees go further, and their method is different. The Mayavadis are doing neti, rejecting. Right? Devotees don't reject what is Krishna conscious. They only reject what is not Krishna conscious. So they will reject mundane material desires, but they replace them with transcendental spiritual desires. So we don't have anything against desires. We don't have anything against emotion. The Mayavadis will reject emotions also. We don't reject emotions. Lord Chaitanya was full of emotions, right, for love of Krishna. So you see, there's such a major difference between Mayavad philosophy and Krishna consciousness. So Lord Chaitanya made it easy. He said, look, you just chant, you dance, you take prasadam, you go on Sankirtan, you preach, you hear every day Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, spoken by devotees who actually follow the regulative principles strictly. And you, okay, so those are main things. Well, no, you worship the deity also. Yeah, I forgot that. And you live in a place that's holy. So it could be Vrindavan or Mayapur, or it could be a temple where there's actual Krishna consciousness being practiced, not a temple of sin, but a temple of devotion. A Seva ashram. Okay, so how many is that? That's 7, I think. Right? That's 7?
Yes.
Okay. There's some more, but we'll just stop right there. So now I want to go to pure devotional service. So second chapter, 61st verse. Tani sarvani samyamya yukta asita matpara. Matpara is a very important word. It's a dual word, mat and then para. It means in relationship with Krishna. So therefore, we should always keep our senses in control. That's what Tani Sarvani Samyamya means. Keeping them under control. How? Yukta, by engaging them in relationship to Krishna, using them only to please the Lord. That's called matpara. Yukta matpara. And then what? Vasehi yasyanindriyani tasya pragna pratistita. We have to subjugate those senses with a lot of, energy, and also, if we do that, then our consciousness becomes fixed and we're known as a person of steady intelligence. Steady intelligence means you always use your intelligence to make the right decision to continue in devotional service in the association of good devotees, and always following the regulative principles, etc. And it says, one who restrains his senses, keeping them under full control, and fixes his consciousness upon me, meaning Krishna, is known as a man of steady intelligence. So, Prabhupada says that the highest conception of yoga perfection as Krishna consciousness is clearly explained in this verse. And unless one is Krishna conscious, it is not at all possible to control the senses. As cited above, the great sage Durvasa Muni picked a quarrel with Maharaj Ambarisha, and Durvasa Muni unnecessarily became angry out of pride. Now, that's very important. There are 18 qualities or 18 aspects of knowledge. The first one is ahimsa, is to be humble, and the second one is to be prideless, or free of false pride, basically. It's not prideless, but free of false pride. One should be proud, in the sense, to have the opportunity to be engaged in devotional service and have bona fide spiritual master. But that's not a false pride. A false pride is you're proud about your body, or you're proud about your wealth, or you're proud about your sense gratification, or you're proud about your fame, or whatever. All those things are related to the body, and it's all condemned. But being proud that you were able to meet Krishna consciousness and Prabhupada and be able to hear and read his books every day and engage in devotional service, that's something that's bona fide, right? But it's not that you feel better than everyone else or you look down on other people. That type of pride makes you more and more humble, right? Because you realize Krishna doesn't like people who are falsely proud. But we should be happy that we were able to have this opportunity to be Krishna conscious. And the more we learn about it, how Krishna has given us many, many loopholes in Kali Yuga to become Krishna conscious. And Lord Chaitanya has made things very easy for us to be Krishna conscious. That we should be very happy about. And we should count our blessings every day, because we have a lot of blessings. These are all blessings, right? These are all incentives to become Krishna conscious. And there are many of them. There's more we're going to discuss. Okay, so it says that Durvasa Muni picked a quarrel with Maharaj Ambarish, and Durvasa Muni unnecessarily became angry out of pride, and therefore could not check his senses. Now, this is something serious. A lot of people do this. They unnecessarily become angry out of pride, and therefore cannot check the senses, including the mind. On the other hand, the king, although not as powerful as a yogi, meaning Ambarisha, right? He was not as powerful as Durvasa Muni, who had this huge amount of power because he had basically conquered the 8 yoga astras, or perfections, and thereby emerged victorious. Because, why? Because, but a devotee of the Lord silently tolerated all the sages' injustices and thereby emerged victorious. Whoa, that's a huge, big statement. What happened? Ambarish, on the other hand, although not as powerful a yogi as the sage, but a devotee of the Lord, silently tolerated all the sages' injustices and thereby emerged victorious. The king was able to control his senses because of the following qualifications as mentioned in the Srimad Bhagavatam 9.4.18 to 20. King Ambarisha fixed his mind on the lotus feet of Lord Krishna. 1. engaged his words in describing the abode of the Lord. 2. His hands in cleansing the temple of the Lord. 3. His ears in hearing the pastimes of the Lord. 4. His eyes in seeing the form of the Lord. 5. His body in touching the body of the devotee. 6. His nostrils in smelling the flavor of the flowers offered to the lotus feet of the Lord. 7. His tongue in tasting the tulasi leaves offered to him. 8. His legs in traveling to the holy place where his temple is situated. 9. His head in offering obeisances unto the Lord. 10. And his desires in fulfilling the desires of the Lord. 11. And all these qualifications made him fit to become matpara, devotee of the Lord, in relation to the Lord. Right? The word matpara is most significant in this connection. How one can become matpara, or related to the Lord, is described in the life of Maharaj Ambarisha. Shri Baladeva Vidyabhushana, a great scholar and acharya in the line of the Matpara, people who are connected to Krishna, right, or in relation to Krishna, remarks, Mad Bhakti Prabhavena Sarvendriya Vijaya Purvika Svatma Dristi Sulabheti Bhavaha. The senses can be completely controlled only by the strength of devotional service to Krishna. Also, the example of fire is sometimes given. As a blazing fire burns everything within a room, Sri Vishnu, situated in the heart of the yogi, burns up all kinds of impurities. The Yoga Sutra also prescribes meditation on Vishnu and not meditation on the void. Okay, so that's the Mayavadis. They meditate, or the Buddhists meditate on the void. That's not recommended. That's not meditation. And the Mayavadis meditate on the light. Well, that's better. That is something spiritual, right? That's better meditation, but it's not complete meditation. The so-called yogis who meditate on something other than the Vishnu form simply waste their time in vain search after some phantasmagoria. So when the Mayavadis are thinking there's nothing beyond the Brahmajyoti, the light, therefore they're wasting their time, Prabhupada says. Because Brahmajyoti is just the first step. There are more steps to understand what is the supreme absolute truth. So therefore they will fall down because they only have partial knowledge. Just like the son of Dronacharya's son, Aswatthama, yeah. He only had half knowledge. He knew how to throw or launch the Brahmastra. He didn't know how to pull it back. Arjuna was taught how to throw or launch the Brahmastra and also to bring it back. So therefore, Aswatthama was defeated because he only had half knowledge. Right? So therefore, if someone hears something like, there was this one devotee, he heard one day some class about God within the heart, right? So then he walked away. And the rest of his life, he said, I don't need to get initiated because I have Chaitya Guru in my heart. So one day I was with this devotee, he was driving a car, and he told me that. So I said, okay, Prabhu, can you tell me what Chaitya Guru is telling you right now? He went like this. He told me to turn right. He told me this is nonsense. See? This is complete nonsense. Then I asked her, now what is he telling you? Oh, he told me to turn left. Right. So, it's crazy, but because half knowledge is basically no knowledge. Right. So I heard one thing, Chaitya Guru, and that is, now I know everything. I don't have to get initiated. I have Chaitya Guru in my heart. So this is all sad, right? And there are a lot of people like that. They're satisfied with half knowledge, which means basically no knowledge. Okay, so it says here, the Yoga Sutra also prescribes meditation on Vishnu and not meditation on the void. The so-called yogis who meditate on something other than the Vishnu form simply waste their time in a vain search after some phantasmagoria. We have to be Krishna conscious, devoted to the personality of Godhead. This is the aim of real yoga. Okay, so that's a beautiful verse right there in Bhagavad Gita, second chapter, right? But it's very profound. And it's explaining, what is basically pure devotional service, right? So there's another lecture in Melbourne. I don't have the exact reference of it. I have it somewhere else. But anyway, in that verse, Prabhupada talks about laws of nature, and the fundamental law is that one must always change the body. Well, we're seeing that. Every one of us is changing our body all the time. And if you look at it more carefully, which we will, what we're doing is, in this integrated teaching of Vidya and Avidya side by side, is proving that there are tremendous mysteries that all people don't really understand. Like, for example, the expanding space. We have no idea how big this universe is. And it's only one universe. There are many more universes, right? It's so big now. And then we've discussed, why is outer space dark, even though there's the sun? Right? Because the particles of air are so dispersed in this gigantic space that the sun's reflection is minimal. You can only see light when it's reflected. You can't see electromagnetic waves going through space, right? It's only when it's reflected that you can see it. But the particles of air are so dispersed that it's minimal, let's say, light. Therefore, you go out of space, it's dark. Right? Why is it dark? The other thing, why does a cloud, what is a cloud exactly? A cloud is water, right? But the atoms of the water, or the molecules of water, are, H2O, are so dispersed that they're lighter than air. So they float up, right? And then they're held like that. It's an engineering miracle how a cloud is formed by evaporation of water, right, from the ocean, and it separates salt from the water, right? And then the molecules of water disperse. That becomes a cloud. And then because of, and then the wind comes, and the wind is because of high pressure and low pressure. There are low pressure areas and high pressure areas in the world. Like, for example, when the sun is shining on rocks or mountains, it creates a high pressure area. And when it's shining on, let's say, other areas, it becomes low pressure. So then that creates wind that pulls or pushes the clouds. And the clouds can go thousands and thousands of miles. Right? And then when there's a change of temperature and the molecules of water come closer together, they become heavy. Now they're heavier than air. Drops of water start falling down and massively, because there's hundreds and millions of, let's say, pounds of water in these clouds. Look today, you can see, look at all those clouds. It's hundreds and millions of pounds of water being carried right now. It's an engineering miracle. So again, there's heat and there's cold. Like, for example, if you have a problem with pain in your body, you could theoretically, unless there's some tears or rips or things like that, you could heal it with just cold and hot water. And there was a Swiss priest who was also a doctor, but he healed with water only. And his water therapies were highly, highly effective. And he only chose snow as the source of his water because he thought, and he was correct, that snow is has a crystalline shape to it, right? So he considered that the purest water. So he would go in the Swiss mountains and harvest snow, and then he would let it melt naturally, and then he would use that under pressure, like with hoses, and then he would put water on. Let's say someone has a backache, so he would put cold water on one side and hot water on the other side, and do things like that, and compresses and other things. And he would heal people simply with water. It's amazing, right? His name was Knip. You can look it up. Knniep. Swiss priest doctor. Look that. So put all that information in. Okay, so, You see him?
Knee therapy.
Knee therapy. What does it say? See, there's so many interesting things in this world. If you start learning about it, like you suddenly, it opens up your whole, mind. What does it say?
So it says it's called hydrotherapy.
Yes, hydrotherapy, right.
The so-called hydrotherapy or water therapy is understood to be applications with warm, but especially with cold water. It is one of the oldest forms of treatment. It was always used successfully in ancient Rome for a long time. However, this therapy was forgotten. It was not until the priest Sebastian Knep rediscovered the beneficial effects of water treatment and added their own findings.
Yeah, there were like thousands of people were going to him. He was a priest, but he had this little, he would heal people in Switzerland. He had a little bit of...
Is that why the sauna and those are invented? Like the water?
If you go today to France, near the Swiss border, there are places where they heal you with water. They have a bathtub and they do different things. They have hoses. I went once. There's so many amazing things in this world. We think, no, we have to go to the doctor and knows exactly what to do, and it gives you injections, and no, they don't know what they're doing. You can heal people in many very simple ways. Right? Okay, there are some things you need the doctors, like you break an arm or you have a heart attack, and they know how to do things very quickly to save you. But to heal major diseases like cancer, diabetes, all those things, they don't know what they're doing. They have some palliative things that can make it a little easier for you. But they always say, we'll have to take this for the rest of your life. Right? Is that right? Yeah. Yeah, because they want to make money, right? Okay. I think we'll stop right there. We want to keep making a list of all these things. The list gets longer. In other words, and we'll eventually make this panel, the advantages of Kali Yuga, 1, and 2, how Lord Chaitanya made it easy for people to be Krishna conscious in Kali Yuga. People should know this. First of all, our devotees should know it, but then we should be able to preach this to others. If we know these things very well and we're able to explain them, it's going to click for a lot of people. I guarantee you, it'll click. The advantages of Kali Yuga, many devotees don't know it. They know about the holy name, and that's the main thing, right? But there are other advantages. Right? Okay, any questions? What?
How about the disadvantage?
The disadvantages? Disadvantages: lust, anger, greed, madness, illusion.
Should we put that also because people don't realize that? What is the disadvantage of it?
You know, we do that. That's the next panel that I'm waiting for it to come out. Those are the disadvantages.
Material conception.
The material conception of life. Those are all disadvantages. In modern education, it's a major disadvantage. Okay, so that's why after that, the next panel after that is the advantages. The disadvantages is the material conception of life, right? And there's also the laws of material nature, but that we'll do later. But the material conception of life are all the disadvantages. Modern education, number one disadvantage, you know. Okay, no questions, so we'll stop right there and have Guru Puja, Haribol.
Shri Guru Charana Padma Kevala Bhagati Sadma
Shri Guru Charana Padma Kevala Bhakati Sadma
Bandha Mohi Savadhana Mate
Bandhu Mui Savadana Mate
Jahara Prasade Bhai E Bhavatoriya Jai
Janara Prasade Bhai E Bhavatoriya Jai
Krishna Prapti Ho Jaha Hoite
Krishna Prapti Hoya Hoite
Guru Mukha Padma Vakya Chitete Goriya Aikya
Shri Guru Charana Radha
Harna Kori Ho Mane Asha
Arana Koriya Mane Asa
Shri Guru Charane Rati Aise Utama Gati
Shri Guru Charane Rati Aise Utama Gati
Je Prasade Pure Sarva Asha
Imade Puri Sa
चक्षुदान दिलो जय जन्मे जन्मे प्रभु से
चक्षुदान दिल छे जन्मे जन्मे प्रभु से
दिव्य ज्ञान हृदय प्रकाशितो
दिव्य ज्ञान प्रकाशितो
प्रेम भक्ति जहाँ होते अविद्या विनाश जाते
प्रेम भक्ति जहाते अविद्या विनाश जाते
वेदे गाय जहाँ रचरितो
वेदे गाय जनर चरिरो
श्री गुरु करुणा सिंधु आधम जनारा बंधु
श्री गुरु करुणा सिंधु अधम जनर बंधु
लोकेनाथ लोकेरा जीवाना
लोकेर जीवाना
हा प्रभु करो दया देहो मोरे पद छाया
प्रभु कोरा दया दया मोरे पद छाया
एबे जास घुषुक त्रिभुवाना
बेबेयास सुखी भुवना
प्रभुपाद पतित पवाना
प्रभुपाद पतित पवना
जय प्रभुपदा जय प्रभुपदा जय प्रभुपदा जय प्रभुपदा
प्रभुपदा जय प्रभुपदा जय प्रभुपदा जय प्रभुपदा
नमः विष्णुपदाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामीति नामिने
नमः विष्णुपदाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामीति नामिने
नमस्ते सरस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेषा शून्यवादी पश्चातादिशतारिणे
नमस्ते सरस्वती गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पश्यत्य दिशतारिणे
जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंदा श्री अद्वैता गदाधर शिवासादि गौर भक्तवृंदा
जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासादि गौर भक्तवृंदा
जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंदा श्री अद्वैता गदाधर शिवासादि गौर भक्तवृंदा
जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासादि गौर भक्तवृंदा
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare.
Nitai Gaura Hari Bol Hari Bol Hari Bol Nitai Gaura Hari Bol
Tagora Hari Bol, Tagora Hari Bol.
Jai Srila Prabhupada ki Jai.
Jayam Vishnupad Paramahansa Pararajaka Chalasta Tarasata Shri Shishimad. His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. Anantakoti Vaishnavrinda ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur ki Jai. Pranam Shri Kahoshi Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Priti Gadadhar Shivasari Gaura Bhaktivinoda ki Jai. Shri Radha Krishna Gopinath Sham Kunda Radha Kunda Giri Govardhan ki Jai. Shri Vrindavan Dham ki Jai. Mayapura Dham ki Jai. Jagannath Puri Dham ki Jai. Tulasi Devi ki Jai. Bhakti Devi ki Jai. Ganga Maya ki Jai. Jamuna Maya ki Jai. Samaveda Bhakta Vinda ki Jai. Nitai Gaura Premanandi. All glories to Samadhi. All glories to Samadhi. All glories to Samadhi. All glories to Shri Guru and Shri Guru. All glories to Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. Namo Om Vishnu Krishna Vishnu Abhiti Samata Bhakta Samata Namaste Saraswati Devi
The lotus feet of our spiritual master are the only way by which one can attain the pure devotion service. I bow down to lotus feet with great awe and reverence.
By His
By His
grace,
grace, one can cross the ocean of material suffering and obtain the mercy of Krishna. My only wish is to have my consciousness purified by the words emanating from His lotus mouth. Attachment to His lotus feet is a perfection that fulfills all desires. He opens my darkened eyes and fills my heart with the transcendental knowledge.
He is my Lord, birth after birth. From Him, static emanates.
And by Him, ignorance is destroyed. The Vedic scriptures sing of His character.
Our spiritual master is the ocean of mercy,
the friend of the
poor and
poor
Lord
and Lord Master of devotee. O Master,
be
be
merciful
merciful
unto
unto
us.
us. Give us the shade of your lotus feet.
Your fame is spread all over the three worlds. We take
the shelter of your lotus feet. Srila Prabhupada.
Srila Prabhupada, Patitam Bhavan ki Jai. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Vishnu Abhiti Samanta Bhakti Samanta Namaste Saraswati Devi Guru Nityananda Devi Sesam Skati Sutta.